but I guess I can. The first part of your question, you understand? It was a little bit like I did not know what you mean, but I can make something out of that if you cannot talk, if you have other people around.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now I don't.
Something by the chat. Okay. And okay, so we can begin with your question while you can still talk. Let's begin here then. Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. Welcome everybody to our Q&A on Thursdays. And going back to what you were saying, Lynn, I would like to leave it to you. If you want to play with karma, dharma, moksha scripture, or only a scripture on moksha, you understand, which is the Upanishads. So can we vote it? Roots, what do you believe? So shall we do Gita? Let's say Gita, we put our hands up, or Upanishads, we keep our hands down. Okay, we have Claudio for the Gita.
Of course, for me, it's the same. I only prefer, it's only a preference. It's not a vasana, okay?
And how about you, David? David keeps his hand down, so
yeah.
I'm going to pick.
I think. I mean, I'd be happy with both because I love the Gita, and it's always good to go back to it. But I feel like I've got a lot of commentary and a lot of things available to me on the Gita if I wanted to do that. So I like it when you take me into new places.
Okay, then let's do
into new scriptures.
Upanishads, yeah. Okay, doke. We'll still have a month or two to go, if not more. So just, I will ask Mark as well, but I think we have a small group, and if we need to put it to a vote, I think the Upanishad has won already. Let me see this question of viewers here. U.S. romantic love. What is this U.S. romantic love? Is romantic love a desire of Jiva in Nietzsche? As such, does a ayani pursue romantic love? Well, we have a beautiful example before our eyes was the Ramji. Somewhere 7-8 years ago, he had a strong desire to have romance in his life. And then he asked Ishwara to send him a lover, a person, you know. He said, oh, I want love. Send me a person. And then Ishwara sent him a person. And then the rest of it is history, as we know. So is it a problem for the ayani? No, it is not. It's just a preference. That's the difference. The ayani, they may have a desire, and then the desire must be in no violation of any dharma. And this desire should be moderate and genuine, and should not be binding. It should not be binding, meaning to say, if Ishwara would not send Ramji a lover, he should not feel miserable or unhappy. He was happy without a lover, and then he remained happy with the lover. And nowadays, he is happy without a lover because a lot of the time they are not together. But on and off, they get together again. So your question here is, as such, does a ayani pursue this? Yes and no. It's just the ayani just says, okay, so it will be nice, Shwara, so let's see. But he does not pursue in the sense that he's going to go chasing and a lover or anything like that, you know. He just waits. He puts it out to the field, to Ishwara, to the Dharma field, and then and keep an eye to see what are the signals coming from Ishvara as the field. Yeah? So it's more on those lines. You understand, David? But if we are not properly established in the self, as the self, fully embrace our nature as Purna, as completion, and then we may feel moments that, okay, I really need someone. And if that is really abiding desire, nagging kind of voice, that is okay too, because it should not be suppressed. You understand, David? It should not be suppressed. So if it is a nagging voice, so we need to handle it without suppression. And the best way is understand, okay, here we go again. So I'm up for more trouble, but I know I'm going to learn something out of this. No? And then you just go with it and see what life presents you, and knowing that is an opportunity for learning and growing, knowing that there will be some trouble, because whenever there are the others present, there is some source for disagreement and conflict of my way, your way, and so on. And keep in mind that the other, I go with it because now it became a kind of nagging desire. But I know to begin with that nobody's going to complete me, because I am already whole, full, and complete. It's just that I have this voice in my mind, and I better follow, and very carefully, diligently, moderately, being very as a sadhana, avoiding deep attachment to that, because that could be conducive to great mental, emotional disturbance as well. You understand? So you have to pursue that with a spirit and an attitude of a sadhana. Spiritual sadhana. Now my sadhana now is taking me to the other. And I have to apply all these teachings so that the other does not represent more of samsara and more samsara and more samsara, but rather an opportunity to learn and grow. You understand?
And well, can you think about it in terms of like karma yoga? I mean, karma yoga says something like this. How do you approach it from a karma yoga perspective? I mean, I get the unattachment, but the intention going into something like or this desire, and how do you turn it into something that is that you're offering it up to God, to Ishvara? You see what I'm saying?
That is a good question, and a trick question as well, because when we
I didn't mean this.
Because when we pursue an object of desire like that, it is pretty much about our desire, and we want to accomplish our desire. You understand? So, and then the way you're gonna do that is, I would say, is less the spirit of giving and contributing and giving back to the field, but more of pursuing your desire in a dharmic way, a totally dharmic way, in a way that the other is not going to be negatively affected by the pursuit of this desire. You understand? And then it could shift into a contribution, but be careful with this idea of looking for someone for the sake of the other, because this could be a little misleading or tricking, deceiving. Okay, so keep in mind, no, I'm looking because it's time for me to have a relationship, and I think it's going to be good for my growth. And I want to do it as dharmically as possible, without false promise, without manipulation, without this, without that, transparently. You understand? And then you can develop an attitude in which you can help the other as well. So it reminds me when I stayed many years with Osho Rajneesh, and Osho Rajneesh was totally against marriage at the time. He used to say that marriage is a model family family unity is a model that was already was obsolete, and he was proposing communities in which people would not be married, but they would have lovers and change lovers whenever it was the love was, you have learned something, you had learned what you want, you could learn from the other and so on. And then when we moved to Papaji, myself and Sylvia, we got Papaji saying that marriage is a beautiful event in one's life. It's the only relationship that somehow we choose, somewhat we choose. And the marriage should be, or this relationship, this intimate relationship should be based on both persons help and support one another in this process of spiritual elevation, which culminates in, self-knowledge and moksha. So, and then the first thing is to find someone who has common values with you, David. And then the second thing is you turn her into your first disciple, and then you can teach her all the Vedanta you have, all the self-knowledge you have. I'm kidding now, huh? This last part was a joke. So, but as you have noticed already, is that to find someone with the same spiritual vasana for self-knowledge is not very simple. You understand? But you can find people even without that vasana who can somehow have some other values in common with you that makes the game really the worst of it, So some people that share some moral, ethic values and nice, and who wants to have a companion, and then so on. And then you can go about respecting her interests or no interest at all in self-knowledge and moksha. So it is possible. You understand? There are a lot of people, they remain married together in spite of one of them have this interest in self-knowledge and the other does not at all. You understand? So that is also possible. But be careful with the notion of entering in a relationship like that to illumine the others or to enlighten the other, to save the other. This can be a little tricky to imagine too. Okay. Anything else about that?
Okay, thank you. No, thank you.
Okay. I have here, Ruth said, yes, you're going to say something, Lynn?
I was going to say that it's an interesting topic for me because I've been widowed now for about 6 years, but still feel very much in relationship with my husband. And every once in a while, like every month or so, I get this thought that I would like a relationship. And I discriminate it because I realized it's a habit. It's, you grow up and you think that you're incomplete without another person.
Yeah.
And it just, you can just see that thought coming up and discard it.
Yeah.
It's just, so there's so many thoughts that arise that are just habits.
Yeah.
That unless you stand back from them, you don't understand, how mechanical they are.
Yeah.
They don't really belong to you. They just happen.
Yeah. And
I've even had sometimes that come up that I do not believe belong to me. They're so particular and as if real, but I understand there's no context in my life for that thought whatsoever. I don't know where it came from. So thoughts, I remember Ramji saying once, don't believe everything you think.
Yeah.
I think that's very wise.
That is a very, very nice, beautiful statement. Thank you for reminding us of that one again. Very, very nice, yeah. I remember Ramji saying that some people that he met in the past, they start with him and then they realize themselves and then they feel free. And then after some time, this thought comes back and say, okay, now I want to add some spice and some joy to my freedom here. And I want a lover, I want a husband or wife. And then I remember Ramji saying that, and after a while, this person, who knows who or what she is, and say, start going there with that sort, I say, oh, this is not going to work, you know. And I don't think I'm going to follow that thought because it was just a thought, but it's not really going to add any more joy and happiness to my fullness. That's something that we have to remember, to the extent that we have this hard and fast self-knowledge, and it's easy to discard, to reject, to filter those thoughts that come and say, go and get this, go and get that, But we can also allow those thoughts sometimes and go. And that's why I was telling David in the beginning. And then you go like, oh, okay, but know that there may be some trouble coming with this desire, with this thought, Thank you, Lynn. Ruth? Yes, go ahead.
No, I love the idea of the intention, of going back to the intention and really examining, once you have the thought, then what is your intention? I think Lynn's saying the same thing.
That's
so
beautiful.
Really examining it and then thinking about, what's your intention? And if the intention is pure and purposeful, and it is not selfish and it's not driven by, by desire, just wants for, or, lust or something, but just a desire for connection, and not to try and change somebody else or force them to go on your journey, but allow them their own journey, and they allow you your own journey. That's the key. So I think intention is really, really that's worth thinking about. So thank you.
Yeah. And the intention, you have to go all the way with the intention, because the intention is to find the what one wants to accomplish with that object of desire. So if I get what I desire, so what do I want to accomplish? And then be clear and transparent about that. I want to accomplish a friendship, partnership, and intimacy, whatever I want to accomplish. So just have it clear in your mind, and so that you are clear about the intention. So Ruth is saying, are you spending a lot of time outdoors? Are you getting very tanned? Yes. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, well, I'm in Brazil. The sun here is really strong and it reflects from everywhere. I don't take much of direct sunlight, but I have a skin that somehow takes in indirect sunlight and makes it very dark. Yeah. I hope that provides me with more vitamin D, which is good for the immune system. Yeah. Okay, so I have another question here from Ruth. Let's go with the David one. Dave, can you remember us if you can still talk? Can you remember us of your question, please? Because how did he send it to me? It was, I think it was WhatsApp. Let me see.
I can pull it up again.
Was WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger?
What's that?
You sent me by email, Messenger?
Oh, it was just something that came up when I was thinking about, our discussion on Monday. Like, science creates a control group in order to test something. So as they're developing a vaccine, they have a placebo, a group that gets the placebo and a group that is the control group.
Right.
And yet when we talk about in Vedanta, the self is not changing. So is it like the control group? And are we comparing ourselves to the self? And so it's just kind of like, so we're in Mithya, so all these things are happening to us. And can we take refuge, or can we think about the self as our control group, the part that never changes? Even though within science, a control group, even though they got the placebo, they're still changing. So is it really, I just kind of question whether science is really
Well,
comparing apples to apples.
yeah, I guess I had difficult to understand your question because I don't quite understand the concept of control group in a placebo test, you know? Can you elaborate a little more? What is the control group? Are the doctors or the scientists?
Well, they're going to take, in the vaccine, if they're going to test the vaccine with 100 people, 50
Right.
of them are going to get the vaccine and 50 are not.
Right.
And then they compare the results and see down the road how many of them contract the disease and how many do not. And so the control group is but it's never the control group is never static. I mean, it in and of itself, they're going to be
Okay, the
exposed to a
control
lot of
group,
different
the
things.
control group is 100 people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the control group is 50. It's 50. It's half of the total.
And the 50 who were taking the actual vaccine.
Yeah, 50 are taking the actual, and then the control group are the people who didn't get the vaccine, the 50 who didn't get it.
Oh, those are what you refer to as control group.
I think that's right. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I think that's right. Maybe somebody else knows, but Ruth might know.
Lynn is saying that is the case. A control group are the people who did not take the drug, right? The drug or any test. The people who do not take the drug but take the placebo are the people that they call control group, right? So the control group is that nothing really impacts and changes them because there is no drug. It's just water. Huh?
Well,
then what is the parallel that you do with Vedanta about this?
So I was thinking of the parallel is that it's a jiva is living in mithya, so it's always changing. Can it compare its experience in mithya to the self? Because the self doesn't change. Yeah. And my thinking is that it can't, because there's no, the principle from science doesn't work here. That the self is truly, consciousness. It's limitless. You can't compare it to anything, and it doesn't help you understand mithya. Mithya helps you understand the self, right? So.
Okay. Did anybody understand David's question?
I think he just meant to say that we were discussing last week about you cannot comprehend a change unless you have a changeless background.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now you got it. Now you brought it to me. The connection. Yeah. Yeah. So we need a base that does not change, so that you can recognize any change. Yeah. So you need a body of people, 50 people, without being injected any drug, so that you can see, what the drugs really can do to the people who actually took it. Is that the parallel?
I guess so. Maybe I'm trying to stretch it to something that's not there.
Okay.
I think what Lynn is in a better question in my mind is but to me it's really tough, because what's the reflection? I mean, if what we're seeing is a reflection, then we got to become pure, and it's got to be a clear and calm and sattvic mind that's being reflected, where the reflection is being played, or the screen is being played on. And so I'm trying to, is the screen really consciousness, or is it really just a sattvic mind?
No, this changeless screen is consciousness. It's not consciousness reflect sattvic mind. No, it is not. The screen of consciousness is that, by which Maya produced the world and Ishvara produced the jiva's, as it shines or reflects in intellect. So this background, now I think we are getting to, I'm getting to understand this background, the changeless, witnessing, non-experience principle called consciousness, it never changes, then the intellect will always change, okay? So everything in media changes from moment to a moment, from moment to another. So when we talk about the changeless is our true nature as consciousness existence, that does not change. You understand? And it cannot really be experienced because it's not an object, but it's the absolute subject, that which is going to shine in the intellect. And then to the degree that the intellect is more sattvic, and then the individual jiva is going to perceive his field more accurately, so to speak, because the mind is more clear. You understand? There is more sattva in the intellect, and then it perceives the world more precisely, more accurately, with less margin of error and so on. So, but the intellect, even the sattvic intellect, does not stay the same from a moment to a moment, because everything there is the play of the three gunas, the three energies that they define. Okay, so when we say about developing a scientific mind, is just develop a relative dominance in proportion of sattva guna, so that the mind can more efficaciously discriminate and follow the logic and reflect on the logic presented by the Upanishads until it understands its true nature as the changeless, which is consciousness. The intellect is all the time changing. It's energy slash matter. Everything is energy. Maya is energy. This goes to the email that Ruth sent to me that I'm going to read next. So everything, Maya, 4 words, so to speak, it's all changing and it's all energy, okay? And it never remains the same from a moment to another, okay? So, but we need to create an environment, an intellectual environment, a mental, emotional, intellectual environment with a little bit more dominance of sattva, so that we can understand our nature as that which does not change. You understand? This knowledge, when we say that knowledge, when Ramji says that knowledge is that which is always good, is because knowledge is not an experience. Anything that can be experienced is an object of experience. And then this knowledge, or even objective knowledge, is an object of knowledge. So every object is subject to time and change, you understand? And they are limited by nature. So self-knowledge, what we call knowledge in Vedanta, is the knowledge in regards to our true nature as the changeless, you understand? As consciousness, the changeless. So we need to have a changing intellect. It's all changing here, the changing intellect, but it's somehow, it's holding a high proportion of sattva, because only an intellect which is more sattvic, more clear, more contemplative, more focused, only an intellect which has more sattva is able to understand, in a fraction of a second, like Papaji used to say, understand direct, this aparoksha jnana, direct and immediate self, which leaves no room for doubt, suspiciousness about one's nature. So, and that is a knowledge about that which does not change, but it occurs in a changing intellect. I don't know if it covers your question.
No, I mean, yeah, it really makes sense. And I think I was trying to make an analogy that didn't really work. And when it comes down to science, but to me, it just kind of highlighted the problem with the scientific approach.
Yeah.
And how it's different from this approach, which is really, it's just very different. And there's really not an analogy here that I can find.
Totally, yeah. All scientific knowledge is knowledge in regards to phenomenal objects of nitya. And the phenomenal objects of nitya, only Ishvara knows for certain and with precision what it is, why it was created, how it is maintained, and how it changed. It's all within the domain of Ishvara's knowledge. So the jivas, the human jivas, we develop scientific knowledge of all these phenomenal objects that we are constantly facing. But all this knowledge they are subject to revision, error, revision, change. I mean, we see it over and over. We look back to see all our scientific knowledge, and they keep being revised and proved to be not really that way. You understand? And then why? Because the intellect of the scientists, you know, it's not the mind of Ishvara. It has a lot of limitation in understanding the mind of Ishvara, understanding this intelligence called Ishvara with the laws that govern and maintain everything. It's so intelligent. So our intellect is limited in understanding it. And then once it understands, it's just another theory, it's another point of view that that it's all the time, it's nearly always, you know, subject to revision and change. You understand why? Because it's the knowledge about Mithya, and this knowledge about Mithya involves two principles: the object of knowledge, which is a phenomenon in Mithya, which is all the time changing, and the knower of this phenomenon, the scientist, that he himself is changed. And then we have two change principles trying to find something that is absolute truth. There is no absolute truth in scientific knowledge. The only absolute truth is in regards to that which is changeless, which is Satya, which is the conscious existence of the investigator, the scientist, and so on, you know, the seeker of moksha. So that's the only true knowledge. Self-knowledge, the only absolute true knowledge, because it's the knowledge in respect to our true nature as Satya, not as something which belongs to Mithya. Anything that is within Mithya, we have no way to really know it because it's too complex. Only Ishvara knows Mithya properly, you understand? I mean, our ability to understand phenomenon is so reduced, regardless on how intelligent or scientific one may be. You understand? But once we know the knower, which is the simplest possible knowledge, self-knowledge, you understand? And then we have known something which is not subject to error or revision. It's the only knowledge that's not subject to error and correction, you understand? Because it's the knowledge about that which is the only reality and is always ever present and without ever modifying to experience. So once you know that, and then you got to know, that's why Vedanta is also defined as the knowledge that puts an end, the knowledge that covers all knowledge, the knowledge that puts an end for knowledge of Mithya, you know? Why? Because it's the only knowledge that resolves this quest of the jiva to find completion by the means of knowledge or virtue or dharma or this third level of human pursuit. The human pursuit security, and then all kinds of pleasures and entertainments, and then some come to a point that they say, I don't care for security, I don't care for pleasures and entertainments, and I care for knowledge. You understand? And then some people go for philosophy and astronomy or spiritual knowledge, and they start consuming knowledge. But it's all knowledge, you know, almost invariably is knowledge about phenomena. Even spiritual knowledge, most of the spiritual knowledge is knowledge about states. A state is an object, is phenomena, you understand? So, all these interdimensions, or this and that, you know, these mystical experiences and so on. All of this is Mithya. All of this is knowledge in regards to very dense or subtle and more subtle, super subtle object. Okay? So the self-knowledge is the knowledge about the knower, all of that, and it's the only knowledge that which is not subject to error, because it's that which is always present, ever, never modifying to any experience, never modifying to any amount of knowledge. That's why in general the ayani he loses interest in consuming also knowledge, scientific knowledge, you know, and all this knowledge. So, or esoteric knowledge. Usually the ayani just all of this somehow presents not much of an appeal to the ayani anymore, because he got the knowledge that you know, that is the essence of all and everything that exists in Mitya.
I'm kind of thinking that, you know, we almost we have like a mithya knowledge, you know, or knowledge that's within mithya, which is, you know, really what you've explained so well, and that's so different from, you know, I'm not, you know, Vedanta knowledge, or, you know, all I can think of is knowledge with a K. I mean, how do I differentiate, you know, with vocabulary between mithya knowledge and Vedanta knowledge, if you will, or knowledge of the self?
Well,
So,
knowledge of the self is not Vedanta knowledge. Vedanta knowledge is Mitya knowledge. But it's a Mitya knowledge. Why? Because it's a body of knowledge. It's based on experience. You know, it's exposed the logic of our experience not properly examined. So it's all about Mitya. It's all about phenomena. But it is a Mitya body of knowledge that examines our day-to-day experience of life from a different light, a different angle. You understand? All of this is in Mitya, but it's a knowledge that has the power to reveal to an individual his true nature as Satya, the knower of everything. You understand? So it's a knowledge that's going to help the individual to understand that he is not the body, he's not the mind, and he's not any of this experience, knowledge that he has been trying to to gain, to become full and complete. You understand? It's going to reveal the individual his or her nature as consciousness, awareness, that which is the only thing that is whole, full, and complete, because it's the substrate, is the only reality. Mitya is just a superimposition in that which is what we are. It's consciousness. So everything is Mitya. This body of knowledge called Vedanta is Mitya. That's why sometimes you hear Brahmji say that Vedanta is like you use and you throw it away, because you do not need to carry Vedanta. Vedanta just serves the purpose to reveal your true nature as Satya, that which the only reality. You understand? And that is self-knowledge. That's the self-knowledge, the only knowledge about one's nature as Satya. You understand? But before that, we need to understand knowledge about karma, the science of causality, you know, all kinds of karmas, dharmas, you understand, the laws governing our experience. We need to understand the spirit of the karma yoga in respect to this relationship with Ishvara and the field. This is all knowledge about Mitya. And then later on, we have to examine our experience in a more subtle way, you know, through the logic presented by the Upanishads, that is going to discriminate and reject this sense of identity, which is conditioned by the body, which is attached to the body mind. All of that is knowledge. It's all related to this inferential knowledge and sensorial knowledge, all relate to hook to our experience, our deductions, conclusions that has driven us to this misidentification with the body. So it's all happening in Mitya. You understand? But that is going to serve the purpose to reveal to an individual in a moment that he is Satya, is consciousness.
really interesting. Thank you. Yeah, that's. I think we evolved the question. And thanks for everyone's help in doing that.
Yeah. There is a noise that it must probably be coming from David. There is another question here from Ruth. She mentioned, I mean, it's not really a question, but she said, it's easier for me to understand that the world is made out of energy. Would it be accurate to say that energy is consciousness? Or rather that energy, Shakti, is Maya? So yes, energy or Shakti is Maya. You know? Is Maya because consciousness is one without a second. Consciousness is non-dual. there is only consciousness, but it appears that within consciousness, due to this power called Maya, he produced a modification within consciousness called Prakriti, or subtle energy. So Prakriti is the most fine, most subtle energy that appears, is the first modification occurring within consciousness. Consciousness is one without a second, it's non-dual. And then when Maya comes, it produces a modification in consciousness, an inclusion of something else. It produces somehow a vibration, energy. And this energy is the beginning of the Big Bang, the beginning of the manifest. But this Prakriti, this energy, is not real. You understand? None of this is real. This energy that appears, Maya, that develops into the three gunas, you know, and then into the subtle element, all of this that unfolds from this very subtle Prakriti, which is an appearance, something that appears within consciousness. But this appearance that unfolds into the universe is not really real. It's just a superimposition on consciousness. Okay? And then when we look from the standpoint of Mithya, we say, yes, this energy, anything that comes out of Maya, this subtle mirror-like apparatus that projects the universe, you know, gradually or not, howsoever you want to look at it. So, but this principle that brings about the three energies and the other energies until they grossify to appear to us as physical material matter, you know, object. So all this energy that appears, something, you know, that appears as duality, because consciousness is one without a second, but it appears something in here which is Prakriti, this energy. This energy comes from Maya, but this energy comes from someone who is by itself an imposter. Imposter in the sense that Maya is not real. You understand? We have great respect to Maya. I have learned to develop great respect to Maya and Ishvara, but we need to understand that Maya, Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, they are just a projection, superimposition on consciousness. So then we could say that it is accurate to say that energy is consciousness. Yes, Maya, Ishvara, Jiva, everything is consciousness. Why? Because they are mere projection, appearance. They are superimpositions on that which is the only reality, which is consciousness, the subject conscious existence principle. So anything that is projected on the screen is nothing but a screen, but it creates the illusion of an independent existence that exists on its own. But no, it's just a projection. You get a project, you project on the wall of your living room, and there you have a lot of images. So what is in there? Are those projections, those images, those movements that happens in that project, are they real, or the only reality is the wall in which they are projected? The only reality is the wall. All the rest is a trick, it's an illusion. The illusion of name, colors, and form. So consciousness is the only reality. So if we look from the standpoint of Maya or Mithya, yes, this energy is a product of Maya. But if we look from the standpoint of consciousness, I say, no, there is no Maya, there is no name and form, because the only reality is consciousness. Depends from the angle we look into these things in Mithya, you understand? So you say, would it be accurate to say that energy is consciousness? You can say that if you stand in Mithya, stand in Maya, or that energy, Shakti, is Maya. No, it's accurate to say that energy is consciousness. Yes, it's right if you stand in Satya. You say everything is Satya because this is the only reality. Mithya and the primordial energies and the unfoldment of all the other energy, this is just a mere projection. You understand? It's just an illusion. Okay? So all that Shakti, this Shakti belongs to Maya. Yes, it belongs to Maya. It apparently belongs to Maya. It was apparently produced by the apparent Maya. Okay, simile was produced by the apparent Maya. It's all an appearance. You understand? So, and then sometimes you're going to see this the scripture stating that everything is just consciousness when we look from the absolute truth that there is only consciousness. And then when we look from Mitya, we say, no, no, everything is due to Maya. Understand? Because Maya is this primordial energy that unfolds and brings forth all the, you know, other energies that crucify to become the universe. Understood, Ruth?
Yes, and you did explain it further on in the lecture on Monday. I say energy because you know, we've been brought up with Einstein's theory, energy equals mass times, you know, speed of light squared.
Yeah.
But so that's why I say, because that's so thoroughly inculcated that it's easier for me to understand the world in those terms. And I guess you could call that formula viewing reality from Mithya.
It is all Mitya, yeah. The scientists work on Mitya. They don't bring such into their equation. They're
Right.
not spiritual
Right.
people. They have an attraction to, is not. They have sattvic minds, but they are extrovert towards phenomena. You understand?
So as they move into quantum physics, they realize that that formula is inadequate to explain the way things are.
As
Interesting.
well, yeah. Good. Okay. We're on the same page. Mario, Claudio, anything from you today? We still have room for a last question or something. Anybody else? Lucy?
Lindo, I once heard this expression that reverberating for me over time. I can't remember, Rupert Spira or somebody like that said it. And they talked about the manifestation. And I know we have with the word now, and I understand that, but he talks about it as the foaming edge of now. And I like that because it brings to mind the fact that, you know, how bubbles just appear and disappear, appear and disappear.
Yeah.
Like the manifestation is outside of time, actually. It's, you can't say instantaneous because that's in time, but is that, am I getting into trouble with that notion?
I mean, I suggest that we stay with the teachings of Vedanta within our tradition. So Spira is another example of someone that comes from the Atmananda lineage that they developed, although the teachings are based on the Upanishad. They develop different systems, different analogy, different theories, and you know they have room because they don't need to stick to the tradition. You understand? So those are philosophies or teachings that we call independent philosophies or independent teachings. Okay, and so I suggest that we stick to the teachings as presented to Vedanta. Are you still there or everybody's frozen? The image seems to be
Can I broke up?
okay. So I suggest, Lynn, that you stay with the scriptures of Vedanta and the teachings as presented by the people on our lineage. Because when we have these different metaphors and analogies and examples, almost invariably they somehow they diverge from the lineage, you know, a little bit here and there, they always diverge. Are you still listening or shall I change my internet signal and folder? Connection went down here.
It doesn't work.
Okay, I'm changing my internet to my
Okay, okay. No, no, he's there.
Okay.
He's there.
Oh.
Arlindo.
You back?
No.
Ooh.
Yeah. I got back here. Let me see if I changed my. Oh no, it came back. Yeah. Now I have my Alex. My telephone is also back up now. So, did you hear what I said, Lynn? Okay, I'm changing to my cell phone here. Okay, come on. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can conclude this. Yeah, now it's on my telephone. Now it's going to be good. So did you hear what I said before? These different teachings, they often come from what we call, we call independent teachings, independent philosophies. So Spira comes from the lineage of Atmananda, and they have brought about teachings that nowadays is labeled as the directly path. First, to begin with, Atmananda, he has rejected the Vedas, the Vedic scripture, the Vedic culture, and he developed his own teachings, and they were all about ayani yoga. Okay, so when they do that independently, and then they have more room to change it a little bit because they present it as my teaching. Okay, and then down the road they give room to other guys also to change it, to custom design it according to my interpretations, according to my experience, and so on. And then you see these teachings changing, and they almost do not refer to a lineage. It's just, this is my teaching, this is my teaching, this is my teaching. And these independent teachings, they are not as pure as the teachings of Vedanta. You understand? They do still present value, spiritual value, okay? But these analogies like expansion of consciousness, a lot of the time they give this notion that consciousness really manifests and it extends itself like this and like that. So there are a lot of notions that to begin with, they are vague, they are abstract, they are confusing because they mix up Satya with Miti and Miti with Satya. There is a lot of room. You need to really understand Vedanta and having a good self-knowledge to see the flaws and the defects in those other expressions of that which is often called my teachings or independent teachings or independent philosophies. So we in Vedanta, we are very careful. We don't change anything. We keep that line, that teaching methodology with everything that is in there because it has worked for the past several centuries, thousands of years, and many thousands of years, and then we don't change, and we are very careful not to add anything personal, unless here and there some teachers, they may add something personal, but only when it's absolutely, aligned with what the scripture is saying. It's just a different way to express according to local cultures or something like that. But we don't really change much anything, and the people who feel like I can add something more to this, people like Shankaracharya, people like Ramji, or people like Dayananda and Paramarthananda, they can add a little bit of something more, here and there, but they really know what they are doing. They are just staying totally lined, not change fundamentally any of the teachings, just adding a little different color here and there according to the time and the culture in which they are located. So my suggestion is to stay with Vedanta, because when we start visiting these other souls, a lot of the time it raises confusion and doubts. You understand? But this says this says that, this said that as well. So when we come to Vedanta, very often, I mean, when we really get into it, it's like we should naturally, spontaneously. When I'm much before that, I was already stopping, visiting the spiritual world and all that it offers. This guy, what does he say? That was in the beginning for me. It was like that when I was giving satsangs before Vedanta. When I got to Vedanta, I mean, honestly, I never again try to listen to anything that anybody says in the spiritual world. You understand? Because very, very quickly I developed the eye to understand what was pure knowledge and what was mixed up knowledge, contaminated knowledge, abstract knowledge, confused, mixed up with personal interpretations and experience. Okay, so that's my suggestion.
I think that it's just, I have never, since I first encountered Ramji, I have always been meticulous in never watching anything that I didn't know was connected to the tradition.
Right.
But this was just a little sort of a poetic notion about the station that keeps coming up. And so even in that, you think it is confusing. Which is why I guess I asked the question. So I will mention all that.
Can you repeat again? What is that notion? The foam?
The foaming edge of now.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally abstract. You would have to really look into the concept of now and then the edge of now. So no past, no future, only now. And the foaming edge. So what foaming edge? I mean, there is so much abstraction and vagueness there, you know? And I mean, these things, they don't really often liberate. It may give people some high here and there, you know, this kind of intellectual constructs, they may give a little bit, but abstraction and vagueness do not do the job, believe me.
I dropped it.
All our tradition is collapsing here, so let's speak it. Okay, anybody else, anything else? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you all. We meet
Thank you.
next Monday. Good day, good weekend. Big hug. See you next.
Ciao, grazie.
Grazie a tutti. Ciao ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.